Yo, what's up everybody? It's Drewberry and I'm back with another custom card video. This one I'm really hyped about because we did characters. Normally we do a keyword or a certain cost. This time it was all about the characters from a different universe. Obviously, Marvel Snap is about Marvel, but what if we had characters from other universes? What would their power totals be, their effects be if they were in this style of game? And that's what you guys came up with. I gave you a challenge of doing anime characters. It was a poll on my YouTube channel and you guys selected anime and it's pretty hype. I'm a huge anime fan. I've been watching it for years, modern anime all the way back to the classics. So I was really excited to see these characters come to life. And you guys crushed it, so I'm excited to show what you got. But next week's challenge is going to be energy, okay? Cards that contain the keyword energy. So you have to make sure energy is in the text. It doesn't actually matter what the cost of the card is, but it has to have energy there. A few examples that you want to pull from Snap are like Psylocke, right? She's going to give +1 energy to the next turn. Electro is going to give +1 max energy rather, right? So there's a few cards already actively in the game with that keyword, and I think it'd be really interesting. It's quite a powerful keyword, so be careful with your balancing, but I'm excited to see what you guys come up with. If you do want to submit a card, you can join the Berryverse Discord. The link is in the description. You can create a card right here. Guys, when you create a card with this link, it is so easy now to like do it all properly. You can even change the border now and everything. Like they really made it easy to make an awesome card. I'm really excited about that. And also if you are making a card and you want to put a cool background, I super appreciate that. That looks cool. But if you could also post the version without the background, that helps me out a lot. Okay. And then also just post one submission in the weekly challenge channel. You can put all your variants and whatever together. But if you decide to change the card later on, a few days later, just go back and delete the old one. Okay. That's all I ask. All right, so let's get into this week's winners. All right, but first we got my card. I'm pretty excited about this one. Guys, I don't know about you, but I had such a hard time picking a character. There were so many that I'm emotionally attached to. I really struggled. One of my first animes I ever watched was Inuyasha, and I wanted to use that character as an homage to my first anime that I watched, but then I went with my first manga that I read, and that was Naruto. And my favorite character from Naruto was Shikamaru. So Shikamaru is a 3/3 ongoing lockdown and opposing card at each location, right? So think of like Professor X, right? Can't be moved, destroyed, or bounced. So you can't bounce it back to your hand even if you play Beast there. You can't destroy it with Carnage, Deathlock, anything like that. You can't move it with Heimdall. It is locked in. It's still gonna have its power total. It can increase and decrease in power. Think of Professor X, right? But you can't do any of those things. And the reason I went with this ability, and I thought it'd be cool, is because, you know, Shikamaru uses his Shadow Jutsu to lock people in and they can't move, and then he can kind of manipulate them the way he wants to. So I thought it'd be so cool if like he's played down there and it's ongoing, right? And then 3 beams of shadows lock onto 3 cards on the opposing team and they're wrapped in a shadow. How cool would that look in Snap? Oh my gosh, I thought it'd be so sick. So and then also just like being locked down made sense with the characters. So I was like, oh, that'd be fun. And then in terms of like viability in the game, I think it'd be pretty good. It's actually a fairly weak ability. Think of it this way as well. You're probably thinking, why is it ongoing? Why is it not on reveal? The way I imagine it is, let's say you have a card locked in the mid and you have a card locked on the right, but there's nothing on the left for Shikamaru to actually lock down. Well, your opponent would know the next card that they play there will get locked down. So they don't want to play anything there if they plan on destroying it, moving it, anything like that, okay? And once he has 3 locked down, it's just ongoing and it could be removed with Enchantress or Rogue or anything like that, right? So otherwise, it's really doing nothing. He's just holding on to those 3 cards and locking them down, which for the most part, I don't know if that's all that strong. Like maybe it's going to help your opponent because it's going to latch onto something that maybe you wanted Shang-Chi, right? So it could be a liability. But the way I was thinking, you could do a few shenanigans is you like use debris and you put rocks over there or something, and then you end up latching onto the rocks. Now, mind you, it is also random, right? It's just going to be 1 card at that location. So 1 in 4 if 4 things are there. So that's a bit of a downside as well. But if you latch onto that rock, they can't move, destroy that rock or anything like that. They're stuck with it. Maybe that works. You can still give it a negative power in the Hazmat deck. Maybe you want to use Viper. You Viper over Shikamaru so that your 3 cards are protected from each lane. How about that? Little sneaky protection by giving your opponent a 3 power card. Now that could be kind of wild. And then there's obviously, you know, like denials in Captain Marvel. She can't move to win the game. She can't go anywhere because she's locked down. She's wrapped in the Shadow Jutsu. And then also maybe like anything move. Actually, it hurts move decks the most, I'll be honest, which is not what they need right now. But I mean, hey, that's just how the cookie crumbles. And then destroy decks, obviously pretty good against destroy decks, you play this. Maybe if you have priority on turn 3, your opponent wanted to destroy that Bucky Barnes, you just Shadow Jutsu it, and then it can't be destroyed. And then there, you got them. Bounce decks as well. You can maybe tech this in. So it ends up being a little bit of a tech card. I don't know if it's all that strong, or maybe it's too strong. Overall, I think it's going to not really do enough for what you want in a lot of scenarios. In some, it's going to absolutely win games, just like Armor does, just like Cosmo does. That sort of stat line is where my head was at. Anyways, that is my card. Let me know what you guys think about it. I was excited about the theme. I just felt like when I put this together, I was like, oh man, thematically, this was so cool with the 3 shadows beaming out, and they could be like wavy, just like Shikamaru. It's so cool, so good. But anyways, not to hype my own card up here, but let me know what you guys think, and let's get to the winners. Number 10, Sebasculin's Trevor Belmont. All right, Trevor Belmont is from the Castlevania series, which is a pretty fun anime. It's fairly new. It came out in like the last few years, and I liked it a lot. It's all about Dracula, you know, and that sort of thing, and he is a vampire hunter from the Belmont series. And also, if you're not familiar, it's the anime is derived from the video game, right? Castlevania. Symphony of the Night is a fantastic option as well. I love Metroidvania, so Castlevania is a fantastic game. But then anyways, you got 5/8. Okay, so Black Bolt, that was my first thought. At the end of the game, destroy the strongest card in both players' hands. So what I thought was pretty neat is it's playing on the reverse effect of Dracula, kind of. I guess it's similar. It's just not discard, it's destroy. At the end of the game, you're going to destroy a card in your hand and your opponent's. Why would you care about that, right? Why does that matter? The game's already ended. They're not going to play those cards. Well, there's a card called Null, which you can play on turn 6 after you play Trevor, and it gets power boosted based on all the destroyed cards. So at the end of the game, that could be a huge swing. Maybe even get it out of Shang-Chi range, because you get all of your power from whatever you end up destroying in your hand. Maybe Infinite is the only one left. Boom, your Null is at least a 20 power Infinite. That'd be crazy. The only reason I gave this like a 10, because I think the idea is fantastic. And actually it's pretty strong with that example I just laid out. But the only reason that I don't think it's all that great is because I feel like the only card that really, really shines with this is Null. And if you're not running them in tandem, then like what else can you really do at the end of the game when you destroy a card? Like you could maybe like removes a card, so Devil Dino gets weaker. Like that's a thing too, right? Maybe destroy trigger. I don't even know. There's nothing really else, because even Death gets discounted. You can't play her again. It's the end of the game. And Limbo wouldn't work. You can't like create a last turn with Limbo on the last turn. It just won't work. So anyways, I thought it was a really cool card. I love the synergy with like Dracula and the vampire hunters and all that sort of thing. They do have like a discard package. You notice like Blade, right? Dracula, they're all in the discard. But I like this take into the destroy, and destroying both players' hands is pretty neat, right? You don't really care what you're destroying in your opponent's hand, but hopefully it has decent power. Maybe it's a card they couldn't play and they got clunked up, right? Anyways, very cool card. Let's get to number 9. Number 9, Extinction's Q, the Shield Hero. Oh man, the Shield Hero. This is a great anime as well. This one came out, I want to say like 3-4 years ago. It's got a couple seasons now. I watched the first season. I liked it a lot. I didn't watch the remainder, but the Shield Hero here is a 4/0. Right? So not very good unless you're playing Mr. Negative and flip it around. And trust me, I could have put that as a synergy card, but I'm tired of doing it, honestly. Anyways, ongoing, all your first and second position cards cannot be destroyed. I thought that was really neat. So he's kind of like Armor, but Armor does it for both sides and will protect, 8 total slots. Well, Shield Hero is going to protect 6 total slots on your side only. Right? So those first 2, you can just imagine a row. Let's say he's got like green light emulating from his shield, right? A green beam could come across the first row of all of your locations, and those are protected, kind of like Wakanda, whatever, right? Armor. So I thought that was pretty cool. It's very interesting. That could be really good in some scenarios, because even though you're playing this on 4 and it's a tempo loss, maybe you've been setting up for it. So obviously we see it everywhere right now. Red Skull Shuri, right? Somehow you get Shield Hero out early, you play Shuri, your Red Skull will be fine. You don't have to play Armor next to it or Cosmo or whatever else to protect it. You could also use the Shield Hero as a means to protect the Red Skull. Another one could be Sunspot. Sometimes Sunspot just gets to crazy power tools. It can get Shang-Chi'd or Killmonger. Obviously, right? Killmonger. And even better yet, because these are in the first and second positions, the earlier cards that you play are the ones that are going to get protected. And Sunspot is probably your most valuable one drop. I mean, it would be absolutely broken if Killmonger didn't exist, right? People would have to tech in Elektra, which isn't all that consistent. So when you have Sunspot and then you pair it with Shield Hero, that would be amazing. I think people would actually start playing Killmonger on 3 because they don't want to run the risk that Shield Hero comes out later. And then lastly is like the monster, I thought, from the location Monster Island, right? Monster pops up. I think a lot of times when people are in games like that and they're running Shang-Chi, they're like, yes, I'm going to snap because the monster's fantastic. I'm going to keep the monster. I'm going to Shang-Chi theirs. It'll probably just win me that location just like that. Well, if you can protect the monster and then you have your own Shang-Chi, you're going to guarantee you win that because they can't do it back to you. So I thought that'd be pretty neat too. But there's a lot of other synergies of those slow decks that only play a few cards to make sure that the ones they want to protect, the ones they want destroyed, thinking like 1 cost or anything with over 9 power, end up in the first row of positions, they'll be protected. So I thought that was really neat. I love the twist on protecting the first row because we don't talk a whole lot about positions on a location, right? It's always about being in the general location to have your ability effect or trigger. This one is talking about the row, and I thought that was pretty neat. So thank you, Extinction. That was a great card. Number 8, Campbell's Mob Psycho. Oh my goodness, dude, this is fantastic. This is actually an anime I have not watched, so maybe I'm gonna have to go back and watch it if I'm being honest. I've heard a lot of great things, so I kind of want to now. But this looks fantastic. I absolutely love this. Okay, so a 0/0. What a spicy stat line. I love that. I feel like we need a card like that in Snap, right? At the start of the game, right? So it doesn't even, Mob Psycho doesn't even matter. You're not even going to end up playing this because it's at the start of the game. If you draw it, you're probably going to be bummed out, but maybe not. Anyways, at the start of the game, randomize the cost from 1 to 6. So not 0, not above 6, 1 to 6 of each card in your deck. Chaos. But I love it. I think it's so much fun to have these crazy effects in the game just for those fun decks, because if you think of like Agatha, like I know people try to make Agatha competitive, etc., but man, like, let's be honest, you're not in control. It's not going to always be the best play, so it's not the best deck. It's wild. Mob Psycho, you're not in control, but you could win some games because some crazy combos just popped up. Maybe you just run 6 costs. It happens at the start of the game. So Mob Psycho plus a whack of 6 cost cards in your deck. Good chance they're all going to get discounted. And then you just play a bunch of 6 costs. Like, could that be actually too broken? Possibly. I would definitely run Agatha with Mob Psycho just to have like some crazy fun. And then Agatha actually ends up probably playing herself before turn 6, and then I get control and I can play whatever else. So it's actually probably broken, but it's also really fun. And Mob Psycho ends up being the worst draw, right? Because his cost is going to go from 1 to 6, and then it's just terrible value. He's going to have 0 power, so you don't want to draw that card. But anything else would be cash money if you set up your deck for it. And I'm pretty sure that's what people do. They just run a bunch of 6 costs. But then you got to worry about, synergy too. So maybe it's not so easy, but it's pretty exciting, pretty fun. I love the idea. I love the art as well, Campbell. This was an awesome card. Number 7, N1N09's Kakashi. Ooh, we got Kakashi Sensei. Let's go. What an absolute, like I love Shikamaru. That's one of my favorite characters from the Naruto series, but Kakashi is up there, dude. He is just a G. Like, look at this guy. Amazing. And there was a couple Kakashis, which are pretty neat, but I really liked the take on this idea. I thought it was pretty neat. Okay, so you got a 2/1. You can stockpile energy each turn. How about that? They use different terminology, but I'm pretty sure I got the essence of the effect here. Stockpiling energy. How about that? So the idea is you play Kakashi on turn 2, right? So you've used your energy, doesn't matter. Turn 3, let's say you pass. You don't play the turn out. On turn 4, you're going to have 7 energy. You're saving it up. You're banking up. Maybe you want to pass that turn. Well, then on turn 5, you're going to have 12. That's wild. But you got to watch out because on turn 6, you have max 4 energy. So if you've been stockpiling like crazy, you don't get to use it for one reason or another. Well, then later on that turn 6, it's all going to go away. And actually, you're going to be on the back foot because your opponent's going to have 6 energy on that turn. You're only going to have 4. And actually, while I say this out loud, another fantastic card that would work with Kakashi is Wave. because you just wave on your turn 5, and then it doesn't matter that you only have a max of 4 energy, and your opponent can only really use 4 energy unless they got Sarah out in the field and can like play 2-3 cost cards or whatever. So that could be a really spicy combo. But I was also thinking of like She-Hulk, right? If I do that line of play I was just telling you about, I pass on 3, I could like She-Hulk for very cheap on turn 4 plus other things. So that's really, really good. How about Sunspot? If we do end up going the route of banking that energy, right? It's not going completely to waste. I don't even... And I actually wanted to bring this one up. Because the energy is being stockpiled, is it actually considered being unspent energy? Maybe these cards don't work, okay? And that's up for debate, and I'm open for it. I was thinking about it when I put it here, but I put it anyways because there's no rule for this in Snap. So it's up for debate. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Would the unspent energy, because it's technically not unspent, it's banked, not work with Sunspot or She-Hulk? But another card I was thinking that would definitely work is Professor X. You bank some of that energy, you get X out early with other stuff. You boost his power total. The risk with Professor X is always playing him and he's maybe not enough power to actually win that location. Well, if you can drop him on turn 4 or even turn 5 when you got 6 other energy to use to buff up that location, happy days, right? Professor X and Wave maybe, like just straight up, just so that your next turn you can play something else, like who knows what, Magneto or whatever power play you want to make. So anyways, I thought that was really cool. I love the idea of stockpiling energy so that it doesn't go to waste, to build up to those big turns, and then having that restriction, because we do need that last line of text, in my opinion, to have balance here, that on turn 6, your energy capped. So there is, you know, a time limit almost. Also, you got to think about, like, in terms of balance of this card, pretty dead draw on turn 6, pretty dead draw on turn 5. Maybe you play this on turn 4, but even that's pretty much a dead draw. You got to basically draw Kakashi in the early rounds to get value, or else you just don't end up playing it. But there you go. I thought that was pretty neat. Thank you, N1N09. I appreciate it. And let's get to the next. Number 6, Bloons Tower Defense 3, Sailor Moon. All right, Bloons Tower Defense 3. What a name. And what a character. You know, what an absolute classic in Sailor Moon. And you know what? One, the art looks incredible here. That top left variant almost looks like an art germ, like just the style of it. It's so good. And then the main art and everything, the text, absolutely 10 out of 10. So good. Well done. But the effect I thought was really interesting as well. Really nice piece for move decks. My gosh, I keep telling you about how move decks need help in the 4 and 5 cost slot, don't they? Because I feel like you end up running Vulture, whatever. You're trying to do all these movements, and then you Heimdall in 6, and that's the big huzzah, right? Well, with Sailor Moon here on turn 5, you can try to make sure that all of your Vultures, your Torches, your Daggers, or whatever are on the left location, which normally you're trying not to do that. You put them on the left, you place Sailor Moon on the right, some of them move over. Mind you, you're only going to pull 3 things. If that location is full, you're only going to pull 3. Sailor Moon's taking up a spot, but you're going to pull 3, and then you can Heimdall, and they're going to move again. How about that? I think that's a nice little move. It gets the Vulture going, gets the Torch going. You still have allocation issues, like in terms of like where the power is being allocated, because you might invest too heavily in one location, and your opponent can probably read the play, right? Sailor Moon coming out 5, Heimdall coming out at 6. I know these things are going to happen. I'm going to play accordingly, but regardless, very cool. I would like to see something like this in Snap. I feel like we need a 5-drop that really genuinely helps move decks, moving cards around. It would be really nice to see. But yeah, fantastic submission here. I really love the card art. It was so good. I love all the variants. The top one's got to be my favorite. That top left is goated. That is so good. All right, thank you for the submission. Let's get to the top 5. Number 5, Madawar's All for One. Oh man, dude, Hero Academia. Who else is watching? Latest season just wrapped up. I've been watching every single episode. So good. All for One is out and about, and we got to be worried about him. Here he is in Marvel Snap, a 1/2 ongoing. When an allied card activates its on reveal effect, remove its abilities. Now let me clarify what this entails, okay? So when an on reveal triggers, and we're going to use actually Spectrum right there, who I think is a fantastic synergistic card with All for One, but let's go with Spectrum as an example. Spectrum gives +2 power to all of the ongoing cards. So boom, she gives all of her +2, and then All for One's ability is going to activate and eliminate the text from Spectrum. She's going to be silenced, essentially, right? And as we know, cards that are silenced from Leech or anything like that, right? Zero, they get buffed from Patriot, right? They have no ability when they're silenced. So then there's Patriot synergies. So now you can do this ongoing, this no ability synergy deck with on reveals. And that is so flippin' cool, dude. I absolutely love this deck. Could come together so beautifully. And I think literally this package right here is cash money. Okay, so you play All for One, 1/2, ongoing effect, gonna get buffed from Spectrum. Then you can play your Patriot later on, also gonna get buffed from Spectrum, and Return is going to buff Spectrum. Okay, beautiful synergy there. You toss in a couple of other on reveal cards. You play Electro because Electro is going to have all of his abilities removed from All for One, including that nasty ongoing ability that's going to only make it so that you can play one card per turn. No more. You get that removed, but you get the +1 max energy. Amazing synergies here. It's so good. This would be a really, really fun deck builder. And it's counterable, right? Because you can silence it with Enchantress or Rogue, right? You take away that, then all those on reveals are going to have that tag, not work with the Patriot. Also, another deck that I ran a lot to get to Infinite was the Patriot Surfer deck, and it would work so well with that. If I can use my Patriot earlier, and then my Surfer doesn't end up with that on reveal tag, or my Brood, or anything else, all those things that I'm playing, they get those tags removed so that Patriot can buff them. Oh my gosh, that is so good. Now, one card that doesn't work with this at all, as I imagine, is Mystique. Mystique, normally you want to use that to copy Patriot. You could not do that because All for One is going to take her ability. So crazy. And I love this thematically. So if you don't know, All for One is this big villain, and he's about, like taking other people's abilities so that he has everything. He can use all these crazy, what they call quirks in the show. Okay, so what a well positioned card here. Obviously, like there could be a way where he gains those abilities, but as a 1-drop, you can't make it too broken. So I think it works really beautifully. I love the idea. The deck building behind this one is super cool. Thematically, it's great. Well done. Number 4, Cabbage Cage, Chainsaw Man. Dude, okay, this is another modern anime. So good. Oh my gosh, if you're into anime and you have not watched Chainsaw Man, highly recommend. It is chaos. It is so crazy, but it is such a fun ride. And look at Cabbage Cage with this variant that was custom made. Cabbage made a few of these with like Sunspot, Nightcrawler, and a few others, Wolverine, I believe. So good, so talented. I absolutely love this art style. It's incredible. The art style makes me think of like Asteroid Boy or Cuphead. Cuphead is exactly what it makes me think of. It's like Cuphead style. It's so good. I love it. We should have Cuphead variants. How good would that be? Oh my gosh. So I love this style, and the animation that you did is just fantastic. And then the 2 variants are amazing. I feel like the top left one could actually be his like main variant, and then the bottom one is a pixel, which just looks so good. How did you find a pixel Chainsaw Man? That's fantastic. But anyways, art is just incredible. I had to feature that first. The effect. So a 2/2. Destroy any card you play at this location. +2 power for each destroyed. This is so thematically beautiful. So Chainsaw Man in the anime, he needs blood to like get revved up, to get powerful, okay? And then he can just go for days and he'll eat the demons and go nuts, okay? That's how he gets his chainsaws. He gets going, he gets revved. So you're basically feeding Chainsaw Man. You're playing cards at that location, getting them destroyed. He gets buffed up. You can get this to easily 10 power while working with your death synergies and whatever else, your null synergies. Oh my gosh. I think you literally play Chainsaw Man, you feed him Wolverine, Sabretooth, whatever, a whole bunch of stuff, right? And then you just end up playing null at the end with a death elsewhere. Oh my gosh, it would actually possibly be broken. So like you could think of like Carnage. Carnage eats things up, he gets +2 power. It's like a similar play on Carnage, but it's so much better. Now the downside, we have to consider the downside, that you can't play cards there anymore. It's like Death's Domain. The only way you could do it maybe is if like you play Bucky Barnes, right? That's pretty good. You give Chainsaw Man +2 power, you get that Winter Soldier right away. Not too bad. But otherwise, you're going to have a bit of a hard time unless you then play Armor or you play Professor X. And of course, this is countered by Armor, right? So there are available counters, but my goodness, does this ever feed the destroy package so well. Oh my gosh. Nimrod's another one. Oh my gosh. You have Chainsaw Man, you have a chainsaw location, you're revving away, you got that factory going, and then you play your Nimrod there. Oh my gosh, gets destroyed. And then you just do all kinds of other crazy things. It would be so much fun. I would love this card in Snap. And the artwork is just so fantastic. So this is so well done, Cabbage Cage. You've outdone yourself. This is fantastic. Well done. And beautiful art. Beautiful. Number 3, Mighty Garashi's Lemillion. I think I'm pronouncing his name right. I can never get it quite right. Lemillion. But this is from Hero Academia. Okay, so another one, right? All for One is the big villain, and Lemillion is like a side character that kind of helps out the main cast. He's like in the older group of the class of heroes, and he's pretty awesome. He's pretty good. He's amazing. And so this effect is what really drew me to this card. I thought this was really, really neat. A big problem with one drops, I think, and why they don't end up getting run so much in Snap is that if you end up drawing them later, they're a bit of a bummer. You know, you draw your Iceman one being one of the better ones, but if you draw him on turn 6, it does not matter. Maybe you play it for the curve and the 2 power, but you don't really care for icing the opponent's hands. It's a bit of a bummer. Well, with this card, you're drawing on turn 6. That's the best case scenario. So Lemillion is a 1/0. This card's power is equal to the turn it enters your hand. What? That is so sick. And now, think about this too. Now locations that draw cards for you suck. Nova Roma, whatever else, because you don't want to draw through your deck. You don't want to see this card until hopefully turn 3, because then you get a 1/3. And it doesn't get buffed with Patriot synergies. And we just did a video about talking about premium stat lines. I don't even think people would run a straight up 1/3 if it, was just the way it was. Like, I think people will find other synergies with effects and whatnot to, work around that until you get to the 1/4, the 1/5, the 1/6. That's some crazy value. So you're really hoping you draw this card later on. But let's also think about this. It could work with Lockjaw. So you drew it too early. Bummer. It's a 1/1. That sucks. Well, I'm going to play it at Lockjaw. It's going to cycle. It's going to go back to the deck, and hopefully I draw it later and it'll flip its power again, because this card's power is always equal to the turn it enters your hand, so it can reset, and then it comes back as a 1/6 on turn 6. Fantastic. Fills out my curve. Beautiful. Also works with Khazar, Blue Marvel. All of a sudden, this card is omega powerful. I love it. And thematically, he could go through walls and floors. Like, he was basically invincible. Anything could go through him when he decides he wants it to do so. And I thought that was kind of neat, because you just he's choosing what his power total is going to be when he pops up through the deck. So it's like popping out of the deck, right? There's a lot of funny memes where he pops his head out and he's just like in the conversation. So I thought that was kind of funny. It kind of blends well together a little bit, but the effect is just really neat, dude. I could see this in Snap. I feel like this should be. It feels very balanced to me. It needs to be drawn in a later period of time, and maybe it's just worth in a bounce deck, but would it work in a bounce deck? I guess is one thing to consider. If it's a 1/2, I play it, I bounce it back to my hand. It's entering my hand again, but it's turn 4 or 5. Maybe it works beautifully with beast synergies. That's another thing I hadn't even considered until now. That could be really spicy. I'd love this as a bounce card. Let's make this a bounce card. Let's make that work. I'm here for it. Ship it. Let's go. All right, that's our number 3. I'm so hyped about this week's challenge. There was some bangers, but we got 2 more that I'm even more excited about. Let's get to it. Number 2, Psycho's Krillin. Oh my gosh, this is so funny. I love it. But the effect, again, is just so sick. I don't know what it is about the characters. Maybe it's just because I opened up with no restriction, but you guys came out with the coolest abilities. So Krillin here, if you don't know Dragon Ball Z, come on, dude. This is like the GOAT, the OG of anime, manga, the whole thing, right? Like, I feel like, I don't know, maybe that's a Western society thing, but I feel like this just dates back and has like survived the test of time. You know what I'm saying? So Krillin, okay? He's like the comedy relief in Dragon Ball Z, right? He's like buddies with Goku, but he's always like getting his butt whooped by all the villains and stuff like that. So I love that Psycho, incorporated that in the cards, and he's just got variants of him just getting his ass kicked in every single frame. I thought that was just too funny. That's so good. So, but what is his effect? Okay, so he's a 2/1. If this can be targeted at any time it will be first. That is so cool. That is so clever. So think about discard. You're going to discard something from your hand. All of a sudden, you have discard protection because Krillin's in your hand. If it's Swordmaster, Blade, whatever, it's going to discard a random card. No longer. Krillin will take the hit and go to the discard pile. What a bro. Okay? What about Gambit? Your opponent's playing that crazy Gambit combo. Well, Krillin says, nope, me first. I'll take the hit so that other people can survive. And then he gets destroyed and see you later, Krillin. And then there's like counter synergies, right? Like I imagine that if this is in your deck, because it can be targeted as a possible option, that Jubilee would pull this out every time, which sucks. Which is so funny. I love it. Like obviously you don't run in that deck. Fine. But like, I don't even know. I think discard literally ends up being the best package. Maybe even move. Would it work in selective move decks maybe? Maybe not, because like not with Doctor Strange or stuff like that. But then let's think about this one. How about with Hulkbuster, right? We got to think about all the random effects. Hulkbuster would latch onto Krillin every single time. It's going to be another 4 power. Then he's like, you know, it's kind of like 5 for 5. But anyways, you know, it's a thing. You can make it work if you really wanted it to. But I think for the most part, it's discard. Literally just having him in the hand so that you don't discard anything else is fantastic. Now, I imagine it wouldn't work with Lady Sif, right? Because unless Krillin is the highest cost card in your hand, that condition is not something he can be targeted by because he doesn't meet the condition, and therefore she will just discard something else, right? But the random effects, Krillin is here to take the hit, and I think it's hilarious. It's such a fun card. I don't even know. I think overall it's possibly too weak. Don't care about the power total. I just think that this is just such an interesting card for Marvel Snap to like take priority on targets. And then also the theme and the look just made me laugh so hard. I was like, yes, this one has to go to number 2. And we needed Dragon Ball Z. We needed Dragon Ball Z in an anime featured character, Marvel Snap card feature. Okay, so there you go. There's Krillin at number 2. Let's get to number 1. Number 1, Nagolov's Charizard. Dude, this card is revolutionary. I honestly hope I see this effect someday in Snap. This concept, okay? So Nagolov absolutely crushing again. Charizard is a 6/12 with no ability, right? That's literally a Hulk. That is a Hulk, okay? But that's not where the card starts. The card starts as a Charmander. So when you draw this card, it is Charmander. It is a 1/1, okay? If this has 3 or more power, transform this card into Charmeleon. Okay, I honestly, I know he used transform because that's the text that's currently in Snap, but I feel like you could have used evolve and it would have been cool. But anyways, this works too. So we got Charmeleon, a 3/5. If this has 8 or more power, transform this into Charizard. The card is evolving, right? That could be in hand, that could be on the board. It doesn't matter. It could be via an ongoing effect. So let's think of ways that we can achieve this evolution. So with Charmander, we need 2 power. We just got to get him to 2 power. And the bonus effect is that I spent 1 energy. I had to buff it. I had to do something. But we get him to 3 power, and it takes a leap to 5, right? So at this point, I've spent 1 energy. I get 5. I have to invest in it. I have to make things work to get there. But I essentially got 1 for 5. And eventually, when we get this bad boy to Charizard, if we can, mind you, there needs to be a lot of support to get there. I will have spent 1 energy to get 12 power with a card that has no ability and possibly can get bust from Patriot. Because another thing that I love about this is that there's no space right now to print more cards that have just straight up no abilities, right? Unless they're tokens. Essentially, this is an evolved card that is a token. You know, you didn't put Charizard in your deck, you put Charmander, and you just hope that you got to the token stage. But regardless, I love the idea of the mini quest of having to buff these up, get that extra power. And how do you do it? You play Hulkbuster, right? Hulkbuster is an easy 4, boom. You could probably easily transform your Charmeleon into Charizard. That's an easy condition to meet. There's other means though. There's Nakia buffs, there's Okoye buffs. Let's not disregard buffs on the field, right? What about buffs like a Captain America who gives +1? Because the way I see this is it's not like the card actually has to have that power. If it was, you know, if you move a card off of Captain America location, it's going to lose that +1 power. Well, I feel like you just have to hit that threshold. It doesn't devolve. So it evolves. It's not going to go back down to Charmeleon. It's not going to go back down to Charmander. Like once you get to that stage, it's going to stay there. So you just have to hit that power threshold at some point in time, have it evolve. So another synergy is like Davlier, like one of those locations that gives plus power. Wakandan MC, the +2 power on turn 5. Like that kind of thing, like, boom, easy conditions to meet, easier ways to evolve your Charmander, your Charmeleon, your Charizard. Now, also weak to a few other things you probably noticed. Being a 6/12, you're vulnerable to Shang-Chi, right? So it can get destroyed. Being a 1-cost card as Charmander, if you don't get it to the sufficient power level to get it to Charmeleon, then it could get destroyed by Killmonger or Electra. And then Charmeleon, being a 3-cost, could get buffed from Silver Surfer if you end up just leaving him there, but that might end up pushing him into a Charizard, which would actually be a huge swing in power. Dude, this is just such a cool idea. You could have done this with all of the other Pokemon evolution lines. Like if you did like the Bulbasaur, Venusaur line, it could have been like bonus energy. Like if you have X amount of energy on this turn, your Bulbasaur will evolve. And it's just a power increase. Then you get X amount of energy on a later turn. So you're using like your Electro, your Psylocke or anything like that. And boom, you get that extra energy. You can evolve into Venusaur. Like that kind of thing. How freaking cool is that? Maybe Blastoise is like the amount of cards that are on the field. If you have X amount of cards on the field, you'll evolve into, forgetting this, Wartortle, right? And then you evolve to Blastoise. Whatever, you get the idea, okay? You'd have to attach it thematically, but holy smokes, we should find some Marvel characters that can evolve and make this a thing, because I think it'd be so cool. These little mini quests and an evolution transform could actually be a keyword on its own, right? So I know I'm ranting, but I just was really hyped about this card. And honestly, the last few, as you can tell, I'm really excited that were just really amazing ideas. I feel like this one just crushed it. Even though we went off the Marvel path, we landed on some fantastic ideas for Marvel Snap. So anyways, thank you so much to everybody who submitted. I really appreciate it. I enjoyed it. Next week is energy. We're going back to normal, but I would love to go back to these characters, and I will continue to do it as a poll version on the YouTube. So definitely snap subscribe, stay tuned, and engage in those polls. And I will catch you guys next time.